Thank you, guys. Hi, my name is Masaki Takamatsu.
And I'm Billy Walker, and we are from Loyola Marymount University. So we are both mechanical engineers at a Jesuit university, which means we have been taught from day one to use our engineering for good. Masaki and I have gotten our hands dirty trying to start a few businesses together in the past, and although we had a lot of learning to do at first, our most recent venture actually resulted in $100,000 in sales in the first 3 months. So we know what this process of launching products is like, but we have since moved on from that business, and we are now working on solving one of the biggest problems in the fastest adopted industry to date. So, a quick show of hands, how many of you have ridden or heard of shared scooters, or at least seen a bird or a lion parked on the sidewalks? Yeah, okay, great. That's the industry we're talking about today. So, my car guzzles gas like crazy, and I do not want to spend $70 to keep refilling my tank. Masaki doesn't even have a car, so living in Los Angeles, it was great when these shared scooters were available for us to ride around Los Angeles. We realized that the values of these scooters go far beyond our cheap college needs. In low-income neighborhoods where people do not have the finances required to afford traditional transportation methods, it's actually extremely available and affordable transportation for low-income areas. They're actually extremely eco-friendly as well, as devices are battery operated. They reduce traffic problems, congestion, and parking issues because they displace cars from the road. This market is absolutely blowing up and expanding at a rate we've never seen before. So in just a year and a half, companies have raised a combined $3.88 billion, but McKinsey predicts this market will be valued at $300 billion by year 2030. Industry-leading Bird was the fastest company to ever be valued at $1 billion, but there are now over 45 shared scooter vendors operating in 250 plus cities, 50 universities, with a combined 35 million rides. But the thing is, there's a potential 20,000 markets for this industry, so although it's exploded, it's here to stay, and it's only going to grow from here. With growing markets comes growing market problems. I don't know if you guys have seen these pages, but the dockless nature of these devices has allowed device abandonment and creates an absolute disaster in cities. For example, the woman you see here can't even get by in her wheelchair because some riders decided to park the devices blocking the sidewalk. In Los Angeles, we've seen this firsthand. People are just destroying devices, breaking them, throwing them away, literally burning them. I've seen someone throw a device off a pier into the ocean just because it was blocking their private property. We figured there's a better way to solve this solution. It's an absolute disaster. For this reason, cities and campuses are banning devices. For example, they're not available here in Fort Worth, but they're available in the surrounding cities. There has to be a better way to solve these issues. Additionally, it's extremely expensive for companies to charge these devices. In Los Angeles alone, companies spend $114,000 each day just to charge the devices, each day. This eats into 47% of their revenues. On top of this, they pay random citizens to charge the devices in their homes, and 63% of the energy that goes into their wall outlets actually comes from non-renewable sources, meaning it's still creating carbon emissions. Growing up in Minnesota, moving to Los Angeles, it actually took my lungs about a year to adjust to the new climate. My doctor told me this is because of pollution and smog, so I know firsthand what these problems can cause because of my asthma, being an engineer and all. Our solution is a docking station to park these dockless devices while charging them using solar energy. So do you remember that $114,000 a day I mentioned before? Sun can do that for free.
Our station uses cutting-edge solar technology to create a zero-net energy charging solution for the shared scooter market. Riders of these scooters will be incentivized $1 off their ride to park their scooters at our station, and this creates organization in a now very disorganized market. And with these benefits that our product can bring, our station will reduce friction between cities, universities, and these scooter vendors, and will ultimately allow more people to have access to this affordable and sustainable mode of transportation. Now we have some of our renderings. So first you see our station retrofitted to a storefront. This will organize the scooters outside of their store, and we can actually send traffic to that store and generate them more revenue. Next, you see our station retrofitted onto a bus stop. Now this is where people need shared scooters. Whether you're going to the bus stop or from the bus stop to your final destination, this is the epitome of last mile transit. Next, you see a bigger model. This model can charge up to 24 devices per day, and it is perfect for cities and universities that have more open areas. Finally, we have a model that is smaller, And this is the model that we're prototyping and are working to manufacture because both LMU and UCLA have requested this model. Because of its modular design, we can configure the unit to better fit the surroundings and accommodate different number of scooters depending on the location. And we've already started testing our product. Right now, we have one station installed right outside of our campus. And it's outside of our campus because our campus has banned scooters for these disorganization issues. And upon successful completion of our pilot, our LMU intends to install around 8 stations on our campus and will work with us to decide which scooter vendor will be allowed on campus. And because LMU is only going to allow scooters, provided that these scooter companies are compatible with our stations, we have leverage over them and we'll be able to decide who gets to be on campus. Now let's take a look at our business model. First, we go to universities and we sign a contract for exclusive operating rights. Next, we take those contracts and bring it to scooter companies, and they compete to have access to that campus. And we will charge them an annual licensing fee to be on that campus and to use our stations. And now let's take a look at our numbers. And this is what's important. On average, one scooter can do $18.25 in revenue per day. This is for the scooter company. And for a campus size of 5,000 students, we estimate that on the low end, 50 scooters will be perfect. And with these numbers, we will be able to generate these scooter vendors with a revenue of $240,000 annually. And remember, this is revenue that they didn't have before. We've opened up the market for them. So with this number in mind, we will charge them $100,000 a year for a licensing fee. And remember, this is a market where everyone is competing against each other to have access to new markets, right? They're spending millions of dollars just to capture new markets, especially college campuses. So this $100,000 is nothing to them. But the best part is, this $100,000 is actually less than what they would be paying to charge their devices if it wasn't for our stations that can use the sun to charge these devices for free. I think that's pretty cool. So we started discussions with different universities, and they've all requested follow-up meetings. And we've been able to talk with key decision makers. And they're simply dumbfounded and are excited that there's a simple solution to a big problem that they're experiencing. Whether it is just an aesthetic nuisance that's being caused on campus because of these scooters being everywhere, or for campuses that ban scooters, these scooters just pile up outside of their gates. So neighboring communities are complaining, right? So they can clearly see that this is a solution for a problem that they're currently trying to solve. We also talked to city officials, different cities, and we talked to mayors, councilmen, high-level officials, and they're all also excited that there's a simple solution to a big problem.
We have some wonderful advisors to help bring this to reality. Special thanks to Dr. David Choi, who's the reason we're here today. Not sure where he is. Oh, that's the thunder. We actually have all of our bases covered, from leading tech ventures, to digital media, to solar providers, to electronics manufacturing, certification, and installation. In fact, Mark Randall is actually an investor and advisor at Skip Scooters, which is one of the industry leaders. Frankie Bernstein also has strong ties to Bird Scooters, who is the industry leader currently. So let's go through some of our financial projections. Our product cost, as Masaki mentioned, is $6,000 per unit, with an installation cost of about $1,000. And on a campus the size of LMU, which is about an average size campus, our initial setup cost to us is about $50,000, just a little over that. We'll be able to charge an annual licensing fee on average of about $100,000. And based on our current sales pipeline, we estimate that by the end of this year, we'll be installed on 10 college campuses. We'll run at a loss at first because this is obviously an expensive tech product to start. But as we scale, we'll actually be able to earn an operating income of $26 million. So we're here raising some money. We're raising $100,000 and hoping to walk out of TCU with $40,000. We have friends and family lined up to complete our round of $100,000. We'll use these funds for engineering to get our products certified to be installable in the public space, as well as our initial materials cost for our first about 50 stations. And we have a small G&A and sales budget to be able to have these stations implemented. So though there's a ton of money to be made with this company, what we care about is our values and the impact we can make. Firstly, we have green job creation. We will create a ton of engineering jobs for the future development of our stations and future products, but we will also create blue-collar jobs for the installation and maintenance of these stations. We'll also be extremely profitable, so we'll be able to share equity with all of our full-time employees, as well as provide a very quick ROI for our investors. Finally, we'll be able to provide accessible and affordable transportation to all, especially our students. This is important because a student like Misaki and myself, we can now transport to and from campus, to our jobs, to our internships, to local businesses, overall improving local economies near campuses. A very direct impact we have is on the environment, obviously, solar charging company. By year 5, through directly charging devices, we will be able to save 963 metric tons of CO2 from being released into the atmosphere. From the amount of cars this would displace from the road, we will be able to save an additional 590 metric tons from being released. This is all equivalent to offsetting 3.8 million miles of car rides. But why does this really matter, right? Everyone knows that we should reduce carbon emissions, but nobody can really feel the problem. Nobody really knows why we want to do this. That's because 50% of the carbon emissions released into the atmosphere in the world are released by the world's richest 10%. But the world's richest 10% are not the people feeling these problems. The people feeling the problems of environmental impact and climate change are those in the poorest and most developing countries of the world because they depend directly on their land, their agriculture, to survive. So I know I mentioned my asthma earlier in this pitch, but that's frankly nothing compared to the struggles of the people in these poor and developing countries. So that's why MobiDoc is combining engineering with entrepreneurship to solve a problem for an overall greater world. Please join us as we do this. Thank you, judges, for being here. Thank you, TCU, for the competition. We'd be happy to host any questions.
So nice presentation, guys. Curious so I live in New York City and I deal with all the bike stuff. How do you coexist with bikes? Because bikes are really prevalent out there today. And then my second question is, how does the whole maintenance thing work? So you get it installed, but then what happens?
Yeah, so I'll answer the how does it work with bikes section.
Yeah.
I think Misaki can speak on the maintenance. Thank you for your question, by the way. So first and foremost, our stations are very modular in their design, meaning we can be adaptable to the market. So as a third party, we are beneficial in that we can make contracts with any shared mobility device company. And it is simply a matter of changing ports. So we are able to dock whatever electric scooters, whatever electric bikes, or however the market will adapt over time, because we've heard rumors of shared electric skateboards. I mean, this industry will explode over the next few years. So we have the ability to charge essentially whatever device has a contract with the municipality or with the campus that we make a contract with.
And as far as maintenance goes, aside from the monthly checkup that we'll have all the data wirelessly. So we'll know once a charging port is not working or once the battery's going bad, we'll know wirelessly so that we can send people to replace parts or just fix it. And we have designed our product to be easy to service, right? Because we want to be able to go in there and fix it really quickly. So that's what we're going to do for maintenance.
Yeah, great presentation, business plan, and great name for your company.
Thank you.
2 questions. Do you have any intellectual property protection of your design, device, et cetera? And then the second question, how do you plan to compete against your competition, particularly the one that has Uber as an investor?
Thank you for the question. I'll answer the first question about IP. So our attorney is currently filing our IP, so we can't discuss it in detail, but we have unique and special systems for charging these devices depending on the battery level. So for example, if one scooter has less battery than the other, we'll charge that one faster than the other one so that more scooters are available faster, right? And we'll also have one cable that can do multiple charging ports to be able to accommodate different scooters. Right now, all the scooters use the same port, so we don't have that issue, but we foresee that these scooters or bikes will have different ports in the future, so we want to be able to be compatible with that, among other things. But yeah, we're currently filing the papers right now, and we hope to have everything covered so that no one can steal our stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can I jump in here? Oh, pardon. Hey guys, nice job. My favorite part was probably just responding to the modern trend, right? You guys use your observation and intuition as entrepreneurs, notice this trend, and then looked for what to solve within there. So I commend you for that.
Thank you.
I think you guys might be underestimating Bird and Lime. Sometimes startups have a tendency to undersell their competitors, but they have very smart people on board. And if you guys think this is a sizable market opportunity, what's preventing Bird from just being able to roll out solar?
Yeah, totally. Thank you for your question.
Yep.
So first of all, campuses love the idea of having multiple scooter vendors on their campus. So we are beneficial in being a third party because we can reduce the friction between these vendors and campuses, as we can make deals with various vendors, such as you see in cities, for example. City officials want multiple vendors because a competition drives quality. So we're advantageous in that way, in that we can work with whatever vendors the campus would like.
Yeah, and students already use multiple scooter vendors, right? So campuses obviously want to accommodate that. They want the students to have the most access to this very affordable and convenient transportation. And so that's why they would choose over us, because we can adapt to the market. If the campuses choose one vendor and that company fails, they lose that mode of transportation. They don't want that. They want to make sure that that they're adaptable to the market, and we can provide that. We can provide that access to multiple companies and make sure that students will keep that mode of transportation.
Mm-hmm. You spoke earlier about your model addressing the needs of the underserved. Help me to understand how do you plan to really get the underserved communities engaged in your platform, when in most cases the underserved communities, from a transportation standpoint, it is functional transportation. It is going to the grocery store and having to lug back, or having to catch multiple buses just to get back to their place of residence. How do you plan to use this model to address the underserved, which has a functional need as well as just a mobility need?
Yeah, totally. Thank you for your question. So first of all, in the low-income neighborhoods in Los Angeles, for example, there's a mandate that scooter companies drop off scooters in these locations. So we will certainly accommodate by installing our stations in the public space once we move to our city installation model, which is a future development, which we can get into after this. And then another thing I would mention is I've watched Masaki take a Bird scooter to and from the grocery store. So this is certainly available for those purposes, whether it's a backpack or carrying a little tote bag. But so when we install in the city public space, we're also incentivizing riders to park at these stations. The average ride costs about $3 to the rider. So for the low-income areas where we install a station in their public space, we'll actually not only organize those cities, but we'll actually make it cheaper for those individuals to ride scooters, because $1 off the ride on a $3 ride is a 30% savings.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. And 6% of riders of these scooters have reported that they sold their car because this transportation works for them. And it's actually 70% cheaper to ride scooters and use public transportation than to have a car, right? So these people can really benefit from that from a cost perspective. And a lot of low-income neighborhood areas, they don't have access to public transportation, right? So we can bring, transportation to their area, so they don't have to own a car. They don't have to be spending money on that, and ultimately provide them with an affordable and convenient mode of transportation.
First off, great job, guys.
Thank you.
Two-part question. In the business plan, you had 3 different business models. Which business plan and the financials are we looking at here in the presentation? Question 1. Question 2, have you guys stress test your pricing model? Because something that costs $10,000 that generates $100,000, to John Henry's point, I think Bird and Lime would look at make-buy decisions, for $100,000 a year versus spending $10,000. I mean, I think they're pretty smart. They figure that math out pretty quickly. So curious how you think about your pricing. And first off, what business model are we looking at here in the presentation? Thanks.
Certainly, thank you for your question. So first of all, you're looking at none of the 3 in these financial projections. This is a recent pivot of ours, because as we approach our school, LMU, and we realized that we can gain this exclusive operating contract, it was actually an evolution in our business model thanks to one of our advisors who is tightly connected with industry-leading Bird scooters. And he thinks that he is very confident that as soon as we sign an exclusive operating contract on our campus, Bird will jump all over it because they've been trying for a year and a half now. I mean, Bird started like 3 blocks down from our campus, so they've been aggressively pursuing it for literally about a year and a half. So this is a new business model. And on top of that, sorry, what was your second question?
Just if you stress test the pricing,
right.
because 100,000 per station seems like a good number for a $10,000 investment.
Certainly. So we really wanted to get this right. So we've discussed this model with a few employees at Bird, and mainly we're relying on our advisor for now, as we wanted to sign this exclusive contract immediately and then go to Bird for these final decisions. So we haven't stress tested it per se, we haven't signed an official contract, but we're very confident that Bird will, in fact, Bird will actually likely pay much more than this. We underestimated the amount of scooters that will be on our campus, therefore the amount of additional revenue we will be able to charge them, and
Yeah, just quite frankly, like, this is not the problem that they're trying to solve. They're just trying to adapt more markets. So the problem of organization is not their issue. Like, they truly believe in the dockless nature, and that they just want to capture more markets than to create a new product and capture this market that they're currently struggling to do. So if we can help them do that, they would gladly. We're confident that they'll gladly pay us that amount just to have that access. You know, like, make them easier to capture this market.
With that, please join me in thanking Loyola Marymount.
thank you.